Say what?
Hello and welcome back. It's time for Say What, where we hear from those connected to the industry about what's going on in our world of electrical apprenticeship. And this always includes topics that you have suggested. Thank you for those, and please keep sending them. I'm your host, Cindy Sandifer. Welcome to 2025. Happy New Year. I hope that you're having a great start to this year. And I'm really excited and happy to begin this year by talking about Electrical Workers Without Borders North America. They seek to create a world where the benefits of electricity are available to everyone. And they do this by utilizing the skills and training of professional volunteers. I want you to hear more about this incredible organization from Jim O'Leary and Chris Erickson. And I know something else that you all are proud of that I'm really grateful we get to talk about is the Electrical Workers Without Borders North America. And when Jim and I were chatting, I'm like, I think there's probably too many people that don't know it exists or don't know about it. So I really wanted to take some time to let's talk a little about history. Like, when was it founded? Yeah. Why does it exist? Vision, mission, and then even what's currently going on there. So you all take it away. Like, when was this founded and why?
Yeah. Well, look, I'm an Ed Hill guy, and this is all about Ed Hill's legacy. And it's the reason I serve now as the president. After we lost Ed, Don Siegel retired and took over as president, and handled it for a while. And then he was going to step down, and it came to me and they asked me, you want to do it? And I said, this is Ed Hill's legacy. I'll do it. I've got 1,000 things going on and a whole lot of hats that I wear. But to me, Ed Hill was the guy. And Jimmy knows the history better with the Italians and the electricians without borders in Italy. And Ed asked me to represent him at a meeting in Milan. Jimmy and I were there. So that's when I got introduced to it as well. But Jimmy knows the history better, starting with the Italians and what they do, and others, other countries that have the electricians without borders that we're not as close to as we used to be, right, Jimmy? Turn your hearing aids up. You got to put your ears on. Your mic works, but I don't know about your hearing aids. Come on, O'Leary. And by the way, I affectionately refer to Jimmy as Potato Head.
And this is affection. Okay.
Affectionately, he's Potato Head. That's an Irish thing.
I'd never been called Potato Head before. It was
affectionately known as.
Oh yeah, that's.
I'm sitting next to him. I'm not gonna call him that, but from there you can.
I've always gotten a big kick out of it. Yeah. But Cindy, I don't know how deep you want to go into the history, but it does go back quite a ways, and Ed became very involved with Haiti, and that started after the earthquake. There was an earthquake in 2010, and the Italian unions proposed to the IBW to become involved in rebuilding a training center that was completely destroyed in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and that was in 2012. And Ed tapped Bill Riley, the business manager of 349 Miami, who we recently lost, unfortunately. We really miss, Bill. Bill is wonderful. But we got involved in Haiti, and I traveled with Bill Riley and with Chud Fuelgraph Electric, and apparently Ed Hill used to work for Fuelgraph Electric. Oh, wow. It's a company out of Pittsburgh, and we went there, reviewed with the Italians what needed to be done, and began to go to work. And we had a number of volunteers from Local 349, who went to Haiti to rebuild the center.
Haitian members, right, Jim?
This was Haiti.
No, but they were Haitian members of the IBW.
One of them was Wally. Yeah, Wally St. Clair.
Yeah.
He's Haitian and master electrician, and he fit right in naturally, and he could speak to everybody, and he served as our interpreter as well, and also local 103 Boston became very involved in Haiti, and they were involved in the construction of a hospital. Mirabellis is in the middle, in the kind of the mountains of Haiti. We went out there. Bill Riley and I went there, and we visited the project. It was a huge solar project for this hospital. And Local 103, they sent over 100 volunteers, to do this project. And so that was really inspiring for Ed Hill, and he was getting more interested in doing this kind of work. And then at the IBW construction conference that was in 2015, Carlo DeMasi was invited. He was a guest speaker, and he spoke about how they were creating Electricians Without Borders Italy. And he proposed in his speech that the IBW do the same. And Ed Hill took the mic and said, let's do it. And 2 months later, Ed Hill retired. And he called me and said, let's get to work. That's how I became involved.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a great history. Jimmy, what about before that? Ed's guide that was the Italians were taken with that. He was the construction department, head of the construction department in the IBW. The guy that dressed.
Oh yeah. Mark Ayers.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark Ayers, great friend. I worked for Mark at the building trades, and actually the Haiti project began with Mark Ayers. We were in Italy attending an Italian construction workers Congress, along with several other international presidents, from like 5 or 6 different unions, and at the end of the Congress, we had a meeting with the Cardinal Farina, and Cardinal Farina was essentially the number 3 person in the Vatican, in charge of the Vatican secret archives. And we had this wonderful lunch with him and union leaders and the head of the Salesian order of the Catholic Church. And they talked to us about, the program in Haiti, which was under them. The Don Bosco training program had been destroyed. Over 150 students, teachers died in the destruction, and wanted us to become involved. And so that's how we became involved with Haiti. It started with Mark Ayers.
Mark Ayers. So let's go a little deeper. World War II. Joe Keegan.
Oh.
Jimmy knows the story.
I love stories.
Yeah. Joe Keenan. He was out of Chicago. I think he was the business manager from Chicago, and then he later became the international secretary of the IBW. But he served in World War II, in Germany, and after the war, when they were doing the rebuilding, it was actually Harry Truman, the president of the United States, who tapped Joe Keenan, to go to Germany and help sort out the industrial relations system for Germany
and the reconstruction.
And it was a big deal, and to give him authority to push through the initiative, he was promoted to brigadier general. He actually had that authority, and so he made a big deal. And I've talked to the Germans about this, and they're aware of this history, and he was considered, the father of the German labor movement among many people. He later on received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian award you can receive for the work that he did in that role in Germany.
You see, Potato Head knows everything. When I first met him, I thought he was like the CIA. I said, this guy knows his stuff, and he's got to be hooked up somewhere. We walked the mountains of Matera in Italy, and Jimmy knows history, languages, people, and I am so lucky to have him as our executive director, full time. Taking care of the work. As president, with other responsibilities, I can do so much, but Jimmy is the day to day hands on, the details and getting it done. I just yell at him once in a while, get him back on track. And but I'm really happy to have him. And,
But have you confirmed he's not in the CIA?
I have not. I haven't really. I gave up on it. I said it was okay. It was okay. But there were big hooks with the Catholic Church, the Haiti projects, and all of that. And that continued into Peru, one project that we're on now. Angola was the one where local tree members got involved. We sent four guys to Angola to a hospital out in the middle of nowhere. Women in their eighth month would come there a month early to be there in order to, when they're ready to go into labor and give birth. And my guys from New York were there with the Italians, and that was our first foray into members going places and getting it done. A story, I don't know, 3 years after Angola, one of my electricians that was there, he's a big guy, African American, and he's getting his lunch from a food wagon in Manhattan on 53rd Street. And he looks out of the corner of his eye and he sees some guy sitting on a taxi cab looking at him, and he looks, and finally he goes over to the guy. He says, "What's up?" And the guy goes, "You ever been in Angola?" I get goosebumps when I tell this story. And he goes, "Yeah, I've been in Angola." He says, "I was there with my wife. I remember you. I saw you doing the electrical work in Angola." It was like 3 years after the project. And he gets picked in New York City, in the middle of New York City. He gets eyeballed by somebody that remembers him being
Yeah,
there.
it's an amazing small world.
Yes.
The location of this maternity hospital wasn't near any,
Wasn't near
major urban center. Where it was on the border of Namibia, and off the grid, completely off the grid.
Yeah.
So how do you get projects? Like, how does someone reach out? Like, it sounds like you've got a few things going on now, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it depends. The project in Angola came to us through the Italian Electrical Workers Without Borders. It was really their show, and we just sent volunteers. But they had a lot of support from Enel, which is the the major electrical utility in Italy, and a bunch of manufacturers of electrical materials, and they got a lot of support to do that, and they were working with a group that was called Doctors with Africa, kind of like the Italian version of Doctors Without Borders, and they have healthcare facilities all over sub-Saharan Africa, and so that's kind of how we got to that. Peru, that came through us through the Italians, and Haiti, the Italian unions, but then we began doing our own thing in Haiti.
And the church.
And the church, it was through that meeting with Mark Ayers with the Cardinal Farina back in 2010, that got that going.
Jimmy had me in Rome. We met with the somebody from the U.S. Embassy. It wasn't the ambassador, but it was somebody. And I'm telling you, this guy, he's got hooks and big deal stuff. Rome, you got to look around. So if I want to get to the Navajo, we finished Angola, and COVID hit, kind of set everything back. Uh, Jimmy is well into USAID and reaching out. What's the new outfit, Jimmy, that we met with the gentleman in New York?
Oh, with Chemonics.
Semonics. These are big companies that are doing this stuff too around the world, and we're looking to figure out how to partner as well with them and opportunities and to continue this. And so as I looked at it, and then one night I started looking at poverty in America on Native American reservations, and it was overwhelming. And when I started to get a little deeper, the Navajo and then Light Up Navajo, a program that they have that's ongoing, where companies are bringing linemen in to run the power lines. But they talked about almost 13,000 homes that don't have electricity. And so I said, without borders, can we do this in America? Does our bylaws allow? And we confirmed that yes, it's okay. And we reached out. Jimmy and I went out there with Chris Wagner, the vice president from the area out there, and one of his staff members, Javier, and we did the walkthrough. And again, overwhelmed the enormity of how vast the reservation is, how far apart the homes are, and isolated, and what it was going to take, and just the whole geography. Our truck got stuck in the sand, and I panicked about going to be stuck out there all night long on the Indian reservation, listening to the wolves and the moon, and but
And there were rattlesnakes out there.
Oh, see? Yeah, you lost me.
that would be an extra feather in the cap. And like I said, I'm not doing this. I want the whole thing, And but the fact that we got there in such a quick fashion with volunteers, with the materials, our partners. Milwaukee Tool was just so generous, 3 sets of everything that we needed. And Edwin Lopez, um, retired NECA rep from New York, executive secretary of New York Electrical, he reached out to contractors and said, we need a generator, we need a bender, we need this, we need that. And so they all jumped on board as well and made significant contributions. And so all of the materials were there. And then the first team went out, and they started to work. Louis Alvarez, who was one of our guys that had been to Angola and was geared up to go to Peru, but he opted for the Navajo. And the first team went out. They were out there for 2 weeks, and it was a great experience. Not only, just getting this thing off the ground, but to see the pictures and the videos, and the interaction with the residents, that they can't, and my discussions with them, they could not believe that people were going to give up their own time because they're volunteers. They're not getting paid to go out there on their own time to bring them electricity in their homes. They couldn't get over that. And either can I, but the satisfaction and the pictures of my members, holding the babies in their arms and the grandmas, hugging them and seeing all of that is what is satisfying to me, to know that we made the right decision here. It's a big endeavor, and we'll never get done. They're talking about it would take 20, 30 years to wire 13,000 homes, and we're never going to get to that. But one at a time, we're doing it. And we had 4 groups of volunteers out there over 2 months, and each group had a similar but different experiences, and were able to have success there, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing that we're doing, and it reflects on the IBW. It's who the IBW is. You know, we got smart people out there. I've said it. There's going to be an article in the next electrical worker, and I talk about electricians being very smart, but they also have hearts. And there was a time the IBW under Jack Barry was the union of hearts and minds, and certainly holds true today. Because when they come back, they can't get over what they did, you know, and they'll never forget that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Like, what are we if we're not heart and mind? You know what I mean? What are we doing if we're not that? Sorry, Jim, you were.
Yeah. No. You know, Chris mentioned the 13,000 homes. You know, that represents 75% of homes without electricity in the United States. And, you know, the Navajo Reservation, it's not a small area. It's actually quite large. It's larger than the area of West Virginia. And it's just completely unacceptable that, you know, we have 13,000 families, you know, without electricity.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to be without electricity is just...
Yeah. The weather changes. It's hot. And we take air conditioning for granted, a refrigerator, everything that we take for granted, a switch on a wall that lights a light. And for them, you know, kids doing their homework by candlelight, you know, and no refrigeration, no air conditioning, none of that. I don't know. And you know what? There are some that they declined it. They said, we don't care. We've done it. We've lived this way for so long. We're good. But I'm not so sure. Once they visit their neighbors, it's you know, they might change their minds. They might come along. So
now their families waiting decades, you know, for electricity, and it's just so heartwarming, you know, the stories and the videos I've seen of the homeowners that get to turn on the light switch for the first time. It's just really amazing, and
they all want a light on their porch. They want to be able to make a statement. My light is on. I'm here. I have electricity. That was important to them, and I just can't get over, you know, how it's getting done. It's great.
We sent 4 groups, as Chris mentioned, 21 volunteers. You know, in over 7 weeks. It was less than 2 months, and you know, we either wired or hooked up over 40 homes.
Yeah,
you know, during that period of time.
3 women, 3 sisters, journeywomen, you know, electricians, and they just were all taken like everybody else.
And we had a kind of debriefing, you know, with the lead volunteers, you know, Chris, myself, you know, Archie, Alcantara, you know, with the Navajos, you know, just before Thanksgiving, and went over everything, and you know, we're gonna start up again, you know, in the spring, and so we were able to send 21 short notice. I think that we'll probably send over 100 volunteers, you know, from, you know, Local 3 and other locals from the United States, and maybe even Canada.
Oh,
you know, we talked to Canadian vice president as well, and one of the former Canadian officers is on the board as well, and they have the same situation up in Canada as well, and so that's truly crossing a border, so to speak. So we'll see how that goes. I got smudged by an indigenous. I don't know whether he was considered a priest or what, but I was with Kenny Cooper up in Moncton in Canada and at a progress meeting, and this guy came and he had an eagle feather that was like almost 2.5 feet long, and he lit the incense and he smudged me, you know, they call it. And that was a blessing that I got a couple of years ago, and I wonder, you know, whether that had an impact on me that put this all together for us. But Canada, you know, could be in the cards as well. and our brothers in Canada, I talked about it up there as well. So they hear me, you know.
Yeah. It just seems like, in this kind of work, and it makes I've felt emotional a lot throughout our time talking, and just, the beauty of it, of course. And yes, we're giving, the members that are going and volunteering their time, but it seems like, and I'm sure it's true, that they're forever changed, not just these individuals that are, receiving,
Right.
if you will, the fruits of their labor, right? But it's like these members who are going out, they'll
Yeah.
never be the same.
Oh
They'll
no.
never be the same. And they've said it, every one of them, you know.
Yeah, they come home better people, better, more active members, leaders of the union. It really has a huge impact on them, and they all ask if they can go again, to keep them on the list. They all do.
Yeah, one guy wanted to bring his wife. We said, nah, she's out, you know. I think she wanted to go sightseeing. He said she can do a little electrical work, but, I said, nah, she's out. We're keeping it platonic and getting it done. But we try to come, because it's so spread out, the logistics of it is they're in a motel. They got to get up. They got to get to the utility. They load the trailer up with the material that they need for the day. And then it could be an hour and a half, 2 hours just to get to the location. And if you forgot something or something breaks, you gotta. So we went over that. We reviewed it after the groups came back as to what makes sense. Double up on materials. Make sure you got enough of everything in case something happens, and eliminate the downtime. So that you could focus when you get there to have as much productivity time. But we thought maybe we were going to rent trailers and let them sleep in trailers out near the home, and then the next day they're ready to go closer to the next one. But that didn't work out. I had guys ready to sleep in teepees under the stars. Some mentioned peyote. I said no, no, no. That's an experience that we're gonna pass on. I know you want the full experience, but no, no, no. And but they really, all different ages, and they got it done. And it's just really satisfying to me uh, that we're doing this. And Cooper is proud of us and on board. He wants to come out. Next groups will, maybe Kenny and I can get out there and see the guys in action and getting it done. Would be great.
This project can go on for years.
Yeah.
The need is enormous and could take 20, 30 years to electrify these communities.
Yeah.
Long time.
Right.
Our hope is, we're going to get members from that live closer, and maybe not 2 weeks, and that saves us the expense of actually the flights out and all of that. They could drive, they could get there a little closer, and we've had, I've spoke at the membership development conference, so the business managers are aware, and the locals out there, have people. And as this thing gets out there more and more, and people sense what a difference we can make, I'm sure we're going to have people from all over the place wanting to come. So we got to manage that.
Yeah. A lot of logistics. Like, there's the feel good part of it, but man, on the ground doing the work, managing these projects.
Well, we're partnering with the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority, which is owned by Navajo Nation. It's a nonprofit utility, and they've been just fantastic to work with. They really have been. They pick up our volunteers at the airport. They get them in accommodations. They give them meal cards. They really go out of their way to take care of the volunteers, and they provide a lot of the materials and supervision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over the project. Well, look, they're a utility. they're gonna start sending electric bills once people start getting air conditioning. they're like happy, It's like the windmills turning. When the windmills offshore are turning, somebody's making money, So they have some inherent reason, to want to see the success of this project too, but also knowing because one case, uh, the son was 7 years old when the question started to come up about electricity, and that home got wired this trip with our members. That son came to see the project. He was 48 years old. With 41 years that family has been hoping, wishing, thinking, and then imagine 40 years.
Like I can't, you talked about things we take for granted, things we're not as appreciative of as we should be. And that, like I'm mad, my power goes out and I'm like, where's it at? Why is it not back on? I mean, I'm not quite as bad because I understand what it takes, but there is that moment of, like I want my power back.
Some have been innovative. Some of them have a couple of solar panels and a little wind turbine, and so they've been able to, homegrown stuff, but and they have some electricity. But each case is different. When you get to a house, there may be existing wiring in the house that you got to figure it all out. Some have no wiring at all. The sheetrock is up, and so everything becomes surface mounted onto the walls, and then outside the pole and the panel and the service and digging and doing it all, getting the work done. But they got it done, and it's quite satisfying for everybody.
Jim, what are you most proud of? Like the work that you do, of what this organization does? Like,
I
it's
think
probably
I'm
unfair. So,
well, no. I I think it's simple. It's what we've been talking about, the volunteers. And I'm just very proud of all the volunteers and how committed they are, and the great work that they do, and also their enormous hearts. They're not just giving their expertise, but they're giving their goodwill. And they're out there. All the volunteers that went to Angola, they came back changed people, and it just really touches me. And so I would say that that's probably what I'm most proud of.
What about you, Chris?
Same thing, and the connection, the bigger picture. Electricians Without Borders, Italy and Spain, and connecting with those groups and trying to partner and figure out. And they're all electrical workers, union electrical workers, global. The world has gotten much smaller, today. And there's France, and there's a bunch of them. We've been talking to the Australians about it. They were thinking about it as well. Every time I have an opportunity to raise it, I put it out there, and people know what it's like to give and make a difference, and that's the satisfaction. And for me personally, again, this is Ed Hill's legacy, and I'm an Ed Hill guy, and to be able to continue what he envisioned and started, to me is the most satisfying. That I'm continuing where Ed started it, to make sure that it doesn't die, and I'm sure he's looking down saying, "We're doing good. We're doing real good."
There's no doubt. There is no doubt. So in thinking of that, how does the industry, someone that's listening to this, how do they support? How do they become a part of this and be a part of the efforts in this ongoing projects?
They've been very involved in just about all of the projects in Angola. It was mainly industry partners from Italy, who contributed there. In the Navajo project, and Chris described Milwaukee Tools and the members of the New York NECA who contributed, and their contribution, when you add it all up, was over $150,000 in tools and equipment that they shipped out to Navajo Nation.
Which I reminded the Navajos, that's our stuff. You're just holding it. We'll be back. We'll be back in the spring. Don't mess with my tools. Nobody else touches these tools. We need them when we get there. But
no, but what was so amazing? Their project manager, and I was talking to him, and he says, "Well," I said, "we're looking, to get donations, tools and equipment." And, do you have a wish list? And so he puts together this very long wish list, and I'm like, I was very reluctant to send it on to Chris, but I did. And to my surprise, Edwin Lopez, who's now my hero, he got every single thing on that list and more.
And more. And Milwaukee didn't even blink. That was the big deal. They're a great partner in this. So
I love Edwin. I've worked with him on other things and the DEIB task force and things like that. And so I can see him getting stuff done. That I can see.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up with Edwin here in Flushing. We grew up together. His father was an associate of Harry Van Arsdale and went to work for the AFL-CIO as a regional rep. And during the Great Boycott and with Cesar Chavez, and his father was sent out to California, and he got beat up out there by the goons pretty bad and suffered serious injuries. So, that stayed with him for the rest of his life. But Edwin and I have been, we're the same age, and we've been lifelong friends, and he really jumped in good. Look, money helps, donations, volunteers. When we're going to put the call out, we want people to figure out that they want to come and that this is something they're willing to do. That's helpful. But having the resources to be able to cover the travel and getting all that done. So money always helps. We've reached out. I got to tell you, Boston 103, not 2 days after the my request during the membership development, their executive board approved and cut a check for $50,000. 50 grand, I'd be happy with $500 donations, and but Lou Antonellis, who's on the board, and again, over the top, very generous, but every dollar counts. And we have some assets, but it goes fast when you start doing the work. And we do anticipate other projects coming up. We have a couple of people. Are they back from Peru yet, Jimmy?
They got back about 10 days ago.
Yeah. So that was the last one overseas. But the Chemonics thing, is that the name? I got the name of that.
Chemonics, is focused on Africa.
Yeah.
There's a project. It's a program called Power Africa, which began during the Obama administration, and there's a sub program of this. It's a component. It's called HITA, to Health Electrification and Telecommunications Alliance, and they aim to electrify 10,000 off-grid healthcare facilities in sub-Saharan Africa in the next 5 years. And because of the project that we did in Angola, working in, electrifying a maternity hospital off grid, Chemonics, came to us and said, hey, maybe this is something you guys can help with. And so we're in conversations with them, and hopefully the funding for this will not be discontinued, in the Trump administration, and that we would be sending, volunteers and even, full-time people, to be working on these projects. And, the Electrical Training Alliance could be really helpful in terms of providing, curricula for training, helping set up training programs. That would be a big help.
Another benefit is the relationships with the other unions overseas, and their companies are coming to America. Enel is building one of the largest solar manufacturing plants. And,
huge.
And while a company from outside of the United States coming here may have a perception, well, America, it's not like us going to China, but they think the labor costs are, down. It's not all union everywhere in the United States. But having those relationships with those unions that have some influence with those manufacturers helps a lot when they come here to the United States to build a project and solar and all of that. And Jimmy works for the IBW and the International. level team. And so those relationships are important, and it helps us here in the United States in the big picture for work opportunity as companies come into the United States. Companies that we don't have relationships with, but those unions that we have relationships with do overseas. And that's important. Value there.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, it's the connection, just the connection, the community, the things that we're able to make the world a little smaller. Well, I just want to thank you all so much for doing this. I appreciate your time. And it's not the last. Like, I'd love to revisit this annually and talk about what's going on. Come back next year. Let's chat about, what projects are happening. What, have you done?
I think we could go on and on talking about our experiences, really do.
I could listen on it. So I think more stories next time, more, of all of this, like the heart of it, the labor of it, just everything.
Pretty special.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much.
Well, thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Wow. I feel like I need to take kind of a deep breath after that episode. And one fact that Jim and Chris were sharing with me after we stopped recording was that there are 1.3 billion people on this planet without electricity. 1.3 billion. So when we start talking about clean water, they were mentioning vaccines that need to be refrigerated, and just the list goes on and on. The work that they are doing is priceless. It's certainly, I hope it touched your heart. If you didn't know about this organization, I'm glad you do now. I hate that I found out just, within the past few years. I hope that we will all find ways to support and encourage this work to ensure that everyone has the power of electricity. And thank you, Jim and Chris. My goodness, thank you for the beautiful work that you do, the passion that you have, and the difference that you are making in the lives of everyone, those receiving electricity and those that are volunteering. People are being changed by this, and I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to talk with you. Big thanks to you, the listeners, for taking time to join us. Remember that we want to hear from you. You may know about things we don't, and we want to share that with all of you. So please, if there's topics that you want us to cover, if you'd like to join as a guest, send me an email, saywhat, SAYWATT, at electricaltrainingalliance.org. Our next episode will drop in February. Until then, please stay connected with us through our newsletters, blog posts, and be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to the podcast, stay powered up, and we will see you next time.
Say what?